Hi guys, welcome to our channel of Sciences and Mathematics. I'm Ernest. Today we're going to look at one of the basic characteristics of a living organism. And our discussion for today is going to be centered around the topic of support and movement in plants and animals. And basically we're going to look at support and movement in animals. So on the illustration that I've given on the board, it is concerning the support system in animals, and basically this is the support system for humans. So we're going to use this one for our discussion, and in this we're going to appreciate the roles or the different functions that this support system does in order to facilitate the concept of life. So apart from other characteristics of a living organism that we have discussed in our different videos in biology, this is also going to cement on the fact that these different parts of the human system have a complementary role in ensuring that the overall essence of life, of course, is successful. Now, in this support system for the human support system, we're going to see that the human support system is made up of the skeletal system. And basically for humans, we have this particular set of two divisions for the skeletal system that consist of the axial and appendicular skeletal system. Now, these basic divisions for the human skeletal system is based on their functionalities, and we're going to see that as we go ahead, we're going to mention different ways in which this specific skeletal system functions. Now, this first, I'm going to use two illustrations. So this first illustration basically tries to give, in a sense, these two specific divisions for the axial and appendicular system are part of the system of the skeletal human support system. And the second one that I'm going to give is going to give us basically the overall illustration on how the human skeletal system or support system can be illustrated. So in this case, I've given three illustrations. I hope that they are visible from this specific point. I've got two support systems for the human. This is the illustration, and this is broadly labeled as compared to this. But we're going to see that in different literature, the specific terms that are being used in this particular scenario can differ. For instance, I have here, this is the basic part of the human support system that forms the what we call the cranium. Now, in some literature, it's being referred to as the skull. So therefore, whenever I'm trying to look at these two specific parts, we shall do a comparison and try to see how different names can be used for this. I'm going to do an expansion of this so that we can be able to see how these different parts of the human support system can be illustrated. So for that one, I'm going to do just so I've expanded the structure so that we can be able to see the naming of this specific skeletal system. But as I said, before we move ahead, it's good for us to appreciate the roles that are played by these different parts of this human support or the skeletal system, which I'm going to mention maybe in a nutshell. So in this case, we said that one of the ways, the characteristics of living organisms is that they exhibit the functions of movement or locomotion. And basically the function of moving from one part to another, or maybe that is movement in plants or animals, we're going to see that there is going to be a defined difference between the way in which plants and animals exhibit these specific properties, in that animals exhibit locomotion, which is a total displacement from one place to another, where in plants we're going to see some kind of a movement which are exhibited in form of tropism. Now, the basic characteristic of movement is very essential in that it provides an escape route from predators. Now, from nutrition, we're going to learn that there are different ways in which these specific animals feed, and some of them, like the carnivores, feed on other animals. So to ensure that there is a survival of the species, there's going to be escape from predators. Now, this functionality of movement will assist the animals to escape from that. And therefore, I've talked about the concept of movement in plants. That's the tropism. It's going to assist for plants in attaining minerals from the roots or from the soil, or rather, and also assist the plants in order to trap sunlight, etc. So therefore, in plants, this basically necessitates the essence of finding food and the growth of particularly the flora development aspect. Now, therefore, for animals, it's either in search of food, mates, or maybe a suitable habitat and trying to escape from maybe unsuitable environment. Now, in humans and other animals, the process of natural selection has shaped locomotion and given different mechanisms which enable them to move from one place to another, or maybe try to exhibit this functionality of movement. Now, in humans, the a broader sense of the bone system that we're seeing being displayed here, we're going to look at each individual bones, particularly maybe in a broader aspect in a different video, so that we can be able to appreciate actually that in the entire part of the human support system is basically adopted to its specific or to the specific functions or other. Now, in an essence, this support system in humans plays a key or fundamental role, and one of them is providing support. Now, as we said that this specific system for support for humans can be sometimes referred to as the musculoskeletal system. Now, in this sense, we're going to see that this support system is connected to muscles, and therefore from that specific essence of the musculoskeletal system, therefore we're going to see that the muscles are connected together with these different parts of the bones in order to bring about support and movement. And apart from that, we're going to see that one of the functions of this specific or different parts of this skeletal system is that it's going to embed some of the organs, or maybe enclose some of the organs, which we are going to see later, like the cardiovascular system that is found around this thorax cavity, and then the brains and other olfactory organs which are encompassed inside the skull. So therefore, the human skeletal system forms a very fundamental role, and apart from enabling movement and support, therefore it's going to house other important organs which we're going to see later. Now, this system of bones are flexible in a way that is going to play that role, of course, of trying to protect the delicate organs and enabling that there is flexibility in order to facilitate what we call movement. So therefore, from that specific discussion, we can see that apart from providing the role of support and movement, there's also protection of our delicate organs, especially the ones which are found within the thorax cavity and the skull, of course, which sometimes I said can be referred to as the cranium in some of the literature that we're going to see. Now, there's a third function which, of course, I'm going to mention. I said the concept of a cardiovascular system, which basically refers to the concept of or a system of organs like the heart, veins, arteries, and capillaries, which provide transport of nutrients around the body and maybe trying to collect the waste product from the body and taking them to various or respective respiratory systems, or maybe organs which are going to dispose them of from the body. So in a sense, this bone system plays a complementary role in trying to support other organs play their role. And apart from that, we're going to see that it's going to form a reservoir for important minerals in the body, like the calcium. And in some other areas, we're going to see that some of the literature, or maybe the terms being used to refer to specific parts of the body. Like for instance, we're going to see like this one, this is a calcaneum. Therefore, from this suffix cal stands for others, I can say loosely calcium. And now basically much of the bone is made up of calcium, which is a tough material. And we're going to see that this, apart from it being made up of that tough material, there's some range or a category of bones which are soft, of course, and it's going to assist them perform various functions. Now, inside these bones, we have what we call the bone marrows. which of course play a role also in trying to ensure that the cardiovascular system that we talked about has its components in place in order to play its specific role. Now, inside this, the red bone marrow uh, that is contained inside these specific bones is where the stem cells develop into blood cells, which you know, of course, they white red blood cells and white blood cells. Now, the support system in humans, we're going to, as I said, discuss it in exclusive and separate videos, depending on its functionalities and different parts as we categorize them into the axial and the appendicular skeleton. Now, in this case, if I can give an illustration from this first figure or the second figure that I've given, the axial part of the skeleton is made up of the cranium together with this cervical vertebrae and the thorax system that is made up of the sternum and the rib cage. And there's this column that passes behind there that we sometimes refer to as the backbone, or which is going to be referred to as the spine in this case. The spine consists of several bones, which we are going to see, of course, not several actually, but literally, as I can say, a range of bones, which include the cervical vertebrae and this atlas and axis, which forms part of the articulation on the skull and this vertebral column. And inside them, there's a spinal, there's an allowance that allows for the passage of a spinal, the spinal cord. And therefore, we're going to see that apart from it acting as an articulation for different parts of the bone of the body, there's also other functions which we're going to see being displayed. And on these bone services, especially for the cranium, we're going to see that there are some perforations which are going to act as allowances, or the foramen, which are going to act as maybe the connection between different organs which we said are contained inside there and other parts of the body. Now, for sometimes, for some instances or maybe some literature, we're going to refer to them as foramina, and we're going to look at this part of the human support system of the skull in an exclusive way, and that we're going to appreciate its role in that. Now, in this specific video, we were to discuss about their roles and functions, and how in a broader way this specific support system for human play a role in supporting other basic biological functions, or maybe other organs of the body trying to do other functions. Now, basically, the human support system for this skeleton has got around 206 bones, and we're going to see that some of the bones may be contained inside this the skull, especially for the smallest bone that we know that it forms part of the earring system. We know that the earring system consists of some of the smaller bones that we're going to see, and basically those are going to also assist us appreciate the fact that also there are other bones that we can be able to, of course, name, like the malleus incus and the steps, which I said is the smallest bone in the body that is contained, of course, in the what we can refer to as the inner part of the ear, which is contained in the skull. So in this case, I hope that we're going to appreciate this. Now, last we're going to look at this specific part of this human support system for the skull. And basically, as I mentioned them, I'm going to compare the first and the second image to appreciate the concept that maybe in different literatures we may come across specific terms which might not be the same as the one that we have already talked about. Now, in our next other videos, we're going to discuss each different parts of the human support system in an exclusive way. But basically, as we can see from this, we have what we call the skull, which I've said sometimes may be referred to as the cranium. And and we are going to see that this cranium is made up of different parts, which we're going to discuss, as I've said. But basically, as I've said, this one plays the function of having housing the olfactory organs, and part of the digestive system that we're going to mention about. It is the mandible that contains the teeth, which are used to break down large food particles to ensure that they are necessary. They are appropriate or maybe suitable for digestion. This is the nasal cavity that consists of the nasal, the air intake system that we're going to see, and this orbital cavity that consists of the sockets for the eyes, so providing the sense for vision. Now on this other side, we're going to see the lateral part of that skull consisting of parts which house the ears, and therefore that together gives a sense that the skull really houses a very fundamental organs and other systems which support life. Now in this case, inside this brain, we're going to see that we have got what we call the spinal cord, which basically plays a role, as we're going to see in our other videos on that specific topic. Now this one consists of the cervical vertebrae. Now basically from this, we're going to see that this specific part, which I've said is the lower jaw, which is known as the mandible, and this is the teeth. So therefore this is the clavicle, which basically has been shown here. Now there's this scapula, which part of it sometimes is referred to as a shoulder blade in some literature, and this rib is part of what we call the thorax cavity. So sometimes it may be named as a part of it as the rib, or there may be other parts of this. Now it contains this specific part that we call the sternum. Now in this case, it has been named as the sternum, but the sternum has got different parts as well, which is manubrium, stemia, and then the body of the sternum and the xiphoid process. Now in this case, it has just been named. Of course, this is a broader sense of this definition. This spine in this case have been given this part of I said that this backbone, as we said, sometimes can be referred to as the spine, which consists of the cervical vertebrae, the lumbar vertebrae, and other vertebrae system, which we're going to mention later. In between them, there's allowance for that spinal cord, as I said, and this part of the support system is known as the pelvic girdle. Consists of 3 bones. This is the ilium, and then the ischium, and the pubis, which are going to be shown here. Now there's going to be a slightly different for the insofar as the male and the female part of this bone is concerned, due to the different adaptations of the reproductive system, especially for the females. Now we're going to mention that when we're discussing the pelvic girdle. And this is the sacrum, which is the lower part of this spine, and then we have the coccyx, which forms in some organisms. We're going to refer to that one as the tail. Now in this case, as we said, this forms part of the axial system. Now for the appendicular system, which forms part of the limbs, the upper and the lower limbs, basically we're going to see that it's forming this part of the pelvic girdle. And then we have the femur, which is a bone, the first bone that is joining the pelvic girdle to the lower limbs. And then the patella. This is a circular bone that of course is enclosed by some materials, which is we have mentioned about the ligaments and the cartilages, and that one we're going to see it later as an exclusive discussion for this part of the bones and the adaptation or their functionality. And the lower limb, we have the fibula and the tibia, which forms part of the lower limb, and then we've got with the tarsus, metatarsus, and the phalanges. Now in our next video, we're going to look at these exclusive parts, as we have said. Since the body, as I've said, is made up of a range of a number of bones, which basically is around 206, whereby the axial skeleton forms around 80 bones. The upper appendicular part forms the 64, and the lower appendicular part forms 62. So a total of that one gives us around 106. And based on the different classifications, this is going to assist us appreciate how these different parts of the body system works insofar as the human skeletal system is concerned. Now, basically, as we can see, that was our rough discussion on the human skeletal system. And as I've said, there are other videos that we have discussed, of course, concerning the cardiovascular systems and other areas that I've already mentioned. I'd like to encourage our members to go to our YouTube channel, that is Sciences and Mathematics. Kindly check on the description box of our various videos and try to see how we can be able to relate these different topics to enhance our broader understanding. So for that case, guys, kindly check on our next video on the same topic so that we can expand more on what we have discussed and try to figure out especially how the skeletal system works and how we can be able to appreciate different ways in which, of course, the movement and support happens in plants and animals and its overall role in trying to support life. So that is it for today, guys. Bye. God bless you.